Welcome to another episode of the CHRO Exchange. We have someone very, very special with us today, Anil Salvi. Anil is the MD and Group Head Human Resources at JM Financial. JM Financial is a 50-year-old company and has an employee strength of 4,000 across the country. Anil has had a 30-year of glorious career across human resource in Indian companies as well as international companies, including the likes of Sintel, Deutsche Bank, RBS, and Blue Star. Out of the 30 years of service, 14 years has been with JM Financial. He's also the CEO of the real estate consulting arm Duello. As a lifelong learner, Anil is actually doing his doctorate from the Swiss School of Business and Management currently. Anil, thank you so much for making time for doing this with us today. We really appreciate you being here with us. And you also attended the CHRO, roundtable and masterclass that we had by one of our Professor Garg. What was your experience in that?
Oh, fantastic, fabulous. First of all, thank you so very much for having me here today. It was sheer joy to have that interaction. Very relevant, and I was giving feedback to Gary and speaking to him. And he talked about a subject which is so current and has a future implications. I was so happy that I made it today. Thank you so very much, Mahak. It was joy and pleasure.
We are very fortunate to have been able to get time on your busy schedule, Anil.
Always
Appreciate
welcome
it.
here.
Anil, before I dive right into the question, I also learned that you're doing a PhD right now. I think two questions there. One, like what motivated you to do a PhD at this time of your life? I don't want to call you old in any way, but it's an unconventional thing for a working professional like yourself to be doing a PhD at this time of life. And what is the topic of your research, if you can tell us?
Basically, the area of research is engagement and how relevant engagement is going to be in time to come is essentially what I'm dwelling into through my research. The idea of, doing a PhD or a research was deep diving and also remaining relevant in the field that I operate. In my current role, I support HR and also run the business. And both the roles, the employees and how engaged they are is extremely important and critical for the success of business and success of HR both.
Fantastic. And I think this question of staying relevant, and it came up in the discussion
Yes,
also
it
several
did.
times today, Anil. So I'll deep dive into that a little later maybe. But want to hear a little bit of your story, Anil. What was it? Where did you grow up? What are some early childhood memories that impacted you and had a because some of these things become defining moments of our life, and then your early career. So if you can just give us a bit of a time lapse of your own journey, that'll be helpful.
Well, and I'm born, brought up in Bombay. I am son of, as we call, union leader. So I have been introduced to HR from a very early stage of my life.
Course.
Being employee representative, my father always used to have a lot of people at home who used to come to consult him. His best friends were the HR people because he used to interact with them very often. While I was doing my undergraduation, I interacted with those HR heads, and early on, I felt that you know this is what I would like to do. So a lot of people that I see have become part of HR. Uh, Sorry to say this, but accidentally, or
By
at least
chance,
by
100%,
chance, right?
yes.
So they're not planned. So you ask people, what do you want to become? Nobody is going to say, I'm going to become bada hoke HR person, right? So he will say doctor, engineer, pilot, even nurse, right? But you wouldn't see anybody talking. So I was that one person who I said, this is something which I could probably do. So I had inherent advantage, like probably a doctor's son would have. He knows the industry, he knows the rigor, and I knew that. And I went to the same college where my father's counterpart did his master's from. So same Bombay University campus I went, and that really helped me. I was the first person from the campus to get placed, and I had actually got two jobs. I really don't want to mention the other company's name, which was paying me more salary, but I joined the firm which was paying less salary because it had great managers. So I reported to people who were in their 50s, both managers passed out from TISS. And those 2-3 years that I worked with them, made me largely who I became later. I always used to talk to them. Sadly, one of them is no more, but my other boss, Mr. Bhatia, is still around, and I even now after 34 years tell them that आपने 2 साल में जो सिखा दिया उससे मेरी दुकान चल गई. And yeah, so it really helped me lay the kind of foundation that I really wanted to. The second milestone, which I can recall, is working for an IT firm, and that was during the Y2K time, and real technology explosion was happening in the country. And first time I saw HR role being a business role, right? First time in my career, I was facing the clients, because the clients used to come to our development center, and the HR presentation was the only presentation that they would go through in terms of your capability. And I somehow started feeling, am I the HR person, or am I the marketing person for the firm? And that was again very defining. And then I actually went very close to the business. And I truly believe the IT firm's HR role is a business role, and not a support role, because the raw material is the people and the skill sets, and the IT person is responsible for providing that skill set, including the quality, and the pricing is function of what he has to offer. So that's another one. And the last was, my, getting introduced to the financial services industry, where again, people, NHR becomes a central kind of, part of the whole proposition that you would create. Yeah. So that's my journey.
Yeah, no, that's a beautiful journey that Anil you've covered, and I think you're very humble in terms of telling us about your achievements, because I think the kind of companies that you've led and the roles that you've led, some of those are remarkable. So Anil, you mentioned about those 2 years where you learned from those mentors of yours. What specifically do you think were skills that you tried to pick from them in those 2 years? And the second question is around why did you say that, and this has been the thought in general that a lot of people don't necessarily aspire to think of becoming HRs. It's almost an accidental career in a lot of cases. तो ऐसा क्यों है? Like, why are people not motivated from the beginning? Ki, I want to be the best HR leader outside there, because you're absolutely right. HR is not a support function anyway. It is, I mean, every business is in the business of people at the end of it, right? So those two questions, would love to hear more.
Yes, I think, HR professionals are not seen everywhere, right? So you see engineers, doctors, police, pilots, they're all around, and tend to become kind of a role model. There will be very few people who would know or have interacted with this as a profession. But I think, I must say that in last about couple of decades, the things have changed, and there is far, far better, wider understanding, appreciation of the function. And there are people who actually today aspire to be part of HR and contribute and feel that, I think I can do well in HR. But there is another fallacy of HR, right? So I've interviewed a lot of HR people who does, and then one question I asked them, why HR? And some of them have given me some astonishing answers, like, I hate maths. That's the reason I'm in. And I like, yeah, okay. I tell them, in most of the service organization, HR is about 60 to 70% of the balance sheet.
Right.
And you saying that I don't like numbers, and that's the reason I'm in HR. And so I think, there's a lot of misconception around what one would do being part of HR, right? So I think that's something which still need to be, driven. And I think it will happen over a period of time, and people have to appreciate and understand HR is as much business
Right.
as is about people.
100%.
The HR role is much more wider because the business would expect you to know the business, and they would also expect you to know the HR. So I think you are expected to be the know all kind of a person. So the ask is significantly higher. I'm also happy and bit biased about the people who come with math, engineering background and want to embrace HR. I think those are the people who would be, have a better chance and opportunity to be successful.
Absolutely. And then the first question about, what are those skill sets that you picked up in those 2 years, and what are some skills that you built over the years which you find extremely important for your own career success?
The first job, as you would appreciate, Mike, is very critical, and the kind of experience that you get from that uh, exposure, reflects on your career journey. See, before I went on to that first job of mine, I had only seen HR in the books and the projects, right? And then little bit in the internship that we would do. What actually it means on the shop floor or in the office is very different, right? And that is what I got exposed to. A lot of people go through kind of shock, right? Versus what they would have expected versus what how actually the role of the job is. I was so fortunate, and these both my bosses mentored me so well. They embraced me as is, right? A green coming out of the campus, and they literally taught me everything that I'm using even today. So I think it's important to have that positive experience, something which essentially shapes you. Everything right from developmental aspect to performance appraisals to compensation to hiring. And in those times, we used to have the court cases, etc. To introduction to the courts. I used to go to the high court and see when my case is going to be listed, interacting with the best possible lawyers in the country, drafting, reading, checking. I think everything under the sun I did. I used to do campus. I used to, the NITs today we called RECs that time. I used to carry two suitcases. In one suitcase, I used to have a projector. So there used to be uh, uh, a projector which used to be folding projector, and I used to have other suitcase used to carry the test papers. So you used to give the test to the people, students, make the presentation. I used to do the transparencies, put the transparencies on the project, talk about your company. One person, I used to single person used to go to campuses. All the RECs I have is VJTI to UDCTs, IIT. I want to, all the RECs like, Mangalore, Surat. And it was kind of, joy. So and then since then, so it was 1990 when I started doing campus. Till today, it's about 34 years, and I'm associated with the campuses. I think that the world has changed, but strangely true, students have remained students. Still, I have not seen much of a change in terms of what I used to see then and what I see now.
I know that's a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah.
Fair. So, Anil, you, because of your vast experience, you obviously mentored thousands of people, you've hired multiple thousands of people in your role. Tell me, what are skills that you really look for when you bring in talent in a company like JM? And that is one, like, at the time of hiring. And the other is that what makes a person successful versus not? Because obviously, when you bring in, I'm sure you bring in with the expectation and hope that a person will do really well, but not everybody performs in the same way. So, are there some patterns that you've been able to recognize that, Mahek, typically these kind of people end up doing well within the organizations?
A short answer to that, Mehak, is I've seen the people who are hungry tend to make it, right?
Interesting.
How desperate and how badly you want to succeed drives you to learn, to acquire, put in that hard work, uh, and then at times being literally shameless, right? Going back to boss, I want, please tell me, please, and knock, knock. And we used the word earlier, hustle, right? And we had a bit of discussion around whether hustling is good, bad. But yes, I think the hustle works, right? And I've seen the people who are at it in terms of desperate to deliver end up being successful often. So I think the system also appreciates the efforts, right? I always say that how is as important as what. What you deliver is important, but how you have been able to do that. Now, there are times when you've done everything under the sun, but somehow the delivery hasn't
Yeah.
come the way you would want. So the system, organization appreciates the kind of efforts that you would have put in and how you have managed the whole journey. Also, I've seen people, irrespective of their age, demonstrate varied degree of maturity. And you
Interesting.
probably call emotional intelligence, social intelligence, or whatever. And the kind of adaptability, the kind of posture, the kind of engagement, the kind of listening skills that they demonstrate. I think those are the people also I see being fairly successful. The other category of the people whom I have seen successful are the people who are patient and yet relentless, right? So those are also the yet another category of people I have seen, and they're willing to wait. They're not in hurry. They're waiting for their opportunity, and they get there slowly but steadily, right? And there are these people who are in hurry. They also tend to get there. But yeah, everybody has their own journey, right? But I think yes, these are the broad categories of the people who make it.
I love it. I think the drive, the hunger to, achieve and succeed, and that patience yet relentless attitude,
Yeah.
all of those are incredibly important skills for someone to have in an organization to succeed. Anil, also touching upon here, because you've had such a long career, of course, and I feel, how does someone stay relevant for so long, and how do you upskill yourself? How do you ensure that you're on top of your game? So, any advice for people who've had long careers, or how they should plan their careers, and how they should be able to reinvent themselves consistently in their careers?
See, first of all, I see a lot of people also, changing roles and the jobs, right? So I've been with JM for 14, 15 years now. And all earlier roles of mine were also longer.
Right.
And I was with RBS, which actually shut the shop, and then I joined GM. First of all, it's about fixing yourself, right? I think you owe it to yourself, and the solution is not outside. Most of the time, you'll find solution within. I see a lot of professionals essentially getting tired, and then we used that earlier, the concept of being burnt out. I think it's a function of how you position yourself, how you are embracing the journey of staying relevant. You need to invest in yourself. There's no choice.
Right.
There's absolutely no choice. The world is so dynamic. I think today we are talking about technology, and earlier session was all about AI, how relevant or how it is going to basically disrupt what we are doing today. One needs to understand, appreciate, learn the kind of developments that are going to happen
Right.
around, right? And equip yourself. And that I think it's a journey that one needs to embrace.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And Anil, you just mentioned about how you spent 14 years at JM. And, now the time when I am recruiting, I see resumes with just 1 year, 2 years of experience across. So maybe because of, your larger experience, would also love to see and hear about what kind of changes are you seeing across employees who are coming in terms of both behavioral changes, expectations from workplaces. So any comment on that?
I guess, yeah, more than 3 decades, right? So there has been, of course, a change in the way the workforce, especially which is coming out of campus, has behaved. But there is also marked change in how organizations are delivering those expectations. I recall when I used to go and hire people from campuses in my early career, and those people used to come and join us for the foreseeable future. So we used to have a 2 years, rotation programs, and then they used to go across the function, and especially the engineers that I used to hire. And typically, they will stay with you for 5 to 10 years. at least. You know, cut two as it's progress. You know, and then based on the firms that I worked, right, Deutsche and RBS, and we used to go and hire from campuses, and our compensation and the offerings used to be the top of the line and often featured among the top payers
Of course.
on the campus. And yet we used to have about 50 to 60% attrition in first 2 years.
Wow. 50
Right.
to
60%
60%.
attrition in about a year or two's time, especially from certain campuses. So there's a marked difference, right? You know, from what I had experienced earlier to what I started experience much later. Suddenly, you know, the organizations became cognizant of positioning themselves in terms of offering the best environment, best compensation, best career trajectory. So it suddenly, you know, it's not even equal. It is essentially the organizations who are doing possibly everything possible to retain, attract, and engage the talent that they were wanting to, you know, this thing. The tolerance of the workforce I've seen and witnessed has undergone a change, right? And the tolerance of employers also undergone a change. They've become more tolerant, and and the employees today are much lesser tolerant, right? Maybe 2-3 decades ago, organizational superiors or the managers could possibly get away with a behavior pattern. Today, that behavior is not going to be acceptable. I remember, you know, the bosses which I had early on were extremely tough. I don't think that I would have liberty of that tough boss today with my own team. You know, and the way you manage, lead, engage is undergone a massive change. And the employers today are at the receiving end, and so are the managers, right? Managers are today worried, how am I going to keep this employee engaged, right? And the demand for that performing resource is so high today. I'm happy that, you know, people are able to find their worth, but it's also extremely challenging to retain the top talent, right? You can do anything and everything, uh, but it's going to be. I think the challenge is real time, right?
When you have such a connected world, I think people get to know what they're worth really very quickly.
Correct.
I think earlier, because there was limited information being moved from one place to the other, you really didn't know how well you're doing versus not, because you didn't have any other context, and your context was just the company and the manager, whatever context was coming through them in some way. So Anil, you mentioned how retaining top talent has become a challenge across firms, and good talent is always on lookout in some way. Maybe talk to us about any one or two unique policies that help you retain your top talent at JAM.
If you see, interestingly, Jam, most of our leadership is homegrown.
Okay.
Yeah, so you see the CEOs, they have been with us for decades together. And some of them have been hired from campuses.
Wow.
And they have become the CEOs of the businesses. Many of them have not worked anywhere else but at JM, right? How did that work, right? I think that relentless trust in our internal talent, the faith that you give them the responsibility and they will, you know, deliver, has been the core of JM, and it was integral part of JM value system. Even the business which I lead, Dwello, is one of the youngest business that we have, about 6-7 years old. All the 7-8 top people have been there since last 7 years.
Wow.
So you go to any business across and you'll see the leadership in that particular business, be the CEO or the CXOs, would have extreme long tenure with the firm. And how the firm has been able to do this is only because of the kind of culture and the value system that the firm has. High integrity, right? You know, that's something which is expected out of everybody. And I always say this is a firm you can go home and then sleep peacefully. You're not worried about the burden of having done something which should not have been done. Zero tolerance for such things at our firm. So inherently equips you, gives you that comfort that this is a firm which is always going to expect you to do the right things, right? And we talked about how versus what, right? This is again the firm. How is extremely important than the what, right? How you are operating, how you are dealing with the client, how you are managing the business is extremely important. The delivery will happen, but what is important is the process. Nobody is expected to compromise in the way you do how, and people find it extremely valuable. This trust, this comfort, and this faith that the organization has.
Right.
Other important aspect of the organization is we are very flat in nature. So you may have titles, but our group's CEO is accessible to 4,000 people, and so is every leader that would be around. So I think anybody can reach anybody. It's just a message. It can be mail, and the culture is open door, and that has made this place very unique. And the result is retention. So if the question is how do you fix it, you don't fix retention. Retention happens.
It's an outcome.
It's an outcome. It's a result.
Right.
Just the way engagement, just the way how contented the people, it happens for you doing the various things consistently over a period of time, and then you have a kind of a culture of whatever that you would have achieved. Yes, I think must give the credit to the firm for building the way the firm has been built. Staying relevant 5 decades is
It's a big thing, of
It's a big
course.
thing.
Absolutely.
Big thing.
They've all changed.
Oh, massive change. And then we're still there.
Yeah.
And doing exceedingly well.
Absolutely. And I think that sense of culture and that sense of giving a lot of ownership to your team, a lot of faith, and I love the fact that there's also a lot of how and not just the what, because sometimes you might just be unlucky in terms of the outcome, but if you've done everything right, then there has to be reward for that as well. And I would also love to hear any personal setback that you had personally or professionally, or what was the biggest challenge that you might have dealt with in the last 35 years of your being in this domain, and how did you overcome that?
I think something which left impact on me was when my last company, RBS, had to shut the banking operation in India, which impacted about roughly 4,000 direct and indirect jobs, and then managing that transition, right, was really difficult. I realized that the relevance of HR is tested during the time of challenges, right? Now you see any event that happens in an organization which is difficult, and you'll see HR getting into play. I often talk about HR as a firefighting function, right? No, you'd only know the important criticality of the firefighters when there's a fire, right? So in this particular situation, of course, HR was at a central spot. The challenge was all people were going to be redundant, and so was HR. And yet you are expected to anchor everything. You might be the last person to go, but you know that you're also going to move on, because after all this done, you're not going to be required, right? So how do you? So as a HR head, how do I keep the team engaged, relevantly equipped, and be at it? And it's a tough job.
It is.
It's a tough job. I think I did all right, uh, and we managed the transition well. When we did that, I personally, the kind of value system that I come from, I was never disrespectful to anybody. I didn't have to force. You just have to communicate, and a lot of communication involved a lot of listening. Yeah, so communication was not telling them your story. Communication was all about listening to their stories, and have that patience, to hear them out, let them vent, and helping them with their transition. And I always felt that these people with the relevant experience and skill set could do much better. And trust me, most of the people have done well, better than what they would have done if they would have continued to work in.
Right.
See, they're very content, right?
And sometimes you need to shake the system and
Yeah, you go out and you see, oh, you know what, I could do
right.
much better.
Yeah.
They were new themselves, and all of them. I'm still, in touch with most people, and I'm so happy to see them prosper, progress, and then become what they have become. That is one of the very, very, difficult transition, which I have not seen that kind of a large scale one. But I'm so happy that we did it with a lot of humanity. Yeah, so I think people didn't lose respect in the process. Yeah.
I can only imagine what you would have gone through at that time, where you know that your job is gone as well, but your last job is to make sure
Yeah.
everybody understands.
Strangely,
Right.
when I look back, it never occurred to me that I'm going to be redundant later as well. But the whole focus was all about, those 4,000 people,
Right.
and how do you make it easy for them. So it was not only engaging with them, it was engaging with the firm, how you're going to make it happen. You need to give time, you need to give all the
It's
financial
like
assistance,
mediating
support,
between both
the
the
parties.
stakeholders, right?
And trust me, I negotiated more with the firm
I'm sure.
rather than with employees. I said it was the employees were not to be blamed for what was happening to them, right? And my father, I told you, was a union leader, and he always used to say, the organizations don't shut or don't do badly because of the employees. They do badly because of mismanagement and what the management didn't do, what they were supposed to do at times. So that had stayed with me, and then I kept on, using that learning that I had earlier, and saying they are not at fault.
Right.
They're not at fault. It was profit-making franchise.
Absolutely.
Something which was very well known for the kind of business ethics and the value systems that was demonstrated and the way we used to perform. And in the global scenario, and what happened with the bank led to its operation in India to be shut. But yes, I think we finally did it. It's one of the most unfortunate thing that would have happened, and I've witnessed in my career. But glad that I was there. I think that I did a good job, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. I think these are times when leadership truly gets defined, because when the time is good, of course, as a leader, you're there to take credit. But when the time is hard and still to do the right thing consistently for those 4,000 employees, I think kudos to you for that, Anil.
Yeah, yeah. It defines you.
It really does. Anil, shifting gears a little bit, I want to talk about how the changes in technology are impacting HR functions specifically and broader company usage generally. So we're talking about, how AI is becoming part of a lot of functions, how the lot of technological advances, automations taking care of redundant, boring tasks and all. So would just love to hear from you that what are some changes that you're seeing in your own organization where you are using maybe AI or technological advances for improving your own processes.
I think there will be seldom any organization which will not talk about AI, ML, digital. And we earlier spoke about technology and digital endeavors being defined differently by different people, right? We are going digital would mean
Different things.
to different organization. It will mean different thing to different leaders. Yes, I think, you don't have today choice, right, in terms of adoption of technology. In our firm, also, there are businesses where we are investing, which are technology-led, technology-dependent business. I think that is the future. We earlier discussed that technology is here to stay, and it is only going to change the way we are going to do business. It is going to change our lives because technology is going to help assist in everything that we are going to do professionally or otherwise. HR is no exception, right? We're trying to adapt the technology to the best way possible. But the challenge with the technology and adoption of the technology is so dynamic and changing so rapidly. You really don't know when you want to ride the horse, right? And then whether you've chosen the right one, correct? The kind of technology platforms people, organizations have adopted maybe 5, 6, 7 years ago, already they have become redundant, right? So what is suitable for you? What is appropriate for you?
Right.
Off the shelf, or you want to develop something on your own? No easy answers there. The idea is building about efficiency, and every organization is trying to do that. Most of the HR processes are now technology dependent. Onboarding has become technology led. Offboarding is also technology led. Your evaluation appraisals have been technology based for some time. In COVID, I think was again period where technology came to forefront massively. One of the HR interventions which essentially leapfrogged was the development and the training. So everybody started training and people were at home. So you use the platform, the digital platforms were adopted, and so have we. E-learning has become the norm, and suddenly your reach has become so easy, right? You can monitor, you can evaluate, you can reach, you can impart the training, all being enabled by technology. I'm extremely excited about how it is going to unfold, right? A little bit wary since it is unknown, right? How it's going to unfold, but excited though. I'm sure that is going to facilitate newer chapters, newer avenues, and newer roles within HR, right? I prefer now engineers coming, engineers who have done specialization in HR to come into HR, because I believe that they can contribute a lot now to the change process. I must confess that probably HR uh, uh, adoption of technology could be a little slower. Uh, Again, that could possibly because of the competencies that the HR people have, right? You would not see very many HR people with technical competence, right? And possibly the appreciation and hence the adoption could have suffered a bit. But we also earlier spoke about we are a function of expectations. So everybody is expecting a lot from HR, and I'm sure I think you don't have a choice but to deliver. It is going to happen.
Absolutely, absolutely, Anil. I think all very, very valid points that you mentioned. And are you also worried that with AI and a lot of automations coming in, are jobs something that people need to worry about? That a lot of these are going to take over some day-to-day jobs that are happening?
I really don't think so. I have not witnessed just because you're employed AI, your roles have become redundant, right? While some processes might change, you may not see augmentation of the workforce in certain areas, but it will also open avenues for the other roles, right? I believe that the technology would facilitate efficiency. Technology will facilitate growth. And see, the world is becoming extremely competitive. I think we earlier also spoke about to earn the same kind of revenue, you have to work much more. And that's where the technology can uh, become handy.
Right.
Yeah. So technology also could be handy in especially the financial services industry, which is significantly and highly regulated one, to ensure that we work within the norms, we work within the rules, regulations as defined by the regulators. The technology is going to be central to everything that we will do in time to come.
I think what I'm hearing is that it's almost like technology is going to be a further enabler rather than a substitute for human work and contribution and intelligence. So that's incredibly helpful. So Anil, I'm sure you all ask this question a lot when you interview candidates, and I get to ask this to you, which probably doesn't happen very often.
All right.
Which is
Go
that
for it.
which is that where do you see yourself in 5 years from now and why?
Oh, I see myself happily retired.
I don't think you see yours letting you go anytime soon.
That's actually, honestly speaking, would like to spend more and more time in sharing my experiences. Would like to, like to teach, right? You talked about my PhD earlier. One of the reasons that I'm doing or pursuing a research study is I deep dive into a subject which I'm able to share with a larger audience. That's what I intend to do after I complete my research. I'm really keen and looking forward to share what I found and then further take inputs because research is never
Yeah.
static, right?
Correct.
It essentially needs to be debated and developed over a period of time. So that's a new bit which I really am looking forward to.
Fantastic. I think more and more of our students will get delighted as we get someone like you to, mentor them and coach them.
Happy to.
Fantastic, fantastic. And hopefully we'll contribute to some research where our students can be
Oh,
the guinea pigs for questions.
Oh,
that you have.
fantastic. Fantastic.
Yes.
I'll take on that offer of yours.
Well, absolutely, absolutely. Anil, my last question to you is that any piece of advice for our young audience who's, still thinking about their careers, how do they navigate it? Any piece of advice? And I know you have two wonderful daughters as well. So I'm sure you know how students and children of our age are. So any piece of advice to them as they think about their careers?
Free advice is never right appreciated. I try to share a bit of a wisdom with my daughters, and I'm generally shooed away. Yeah, so with a lot of hesitation, I would.
That will be because they have too much access to you, So there's always that ghar ki murgi wala concept, right? So that's the problem.
Yeah, I would like to trust you on that.
Yes, so you can.
Yeah, but I think my two bits to the students is remain open, remain hungry, and the last but not least, try to be nice.
That's
It's
such an
very
important thing.
yeah. So it sounds so simple, but trust me, being nice is something which can come naturally to you. It's free. You don't have to undergo any course. You don't have to enroll in any other university to become a nice person. I think, the people who are nice get noticed and get appreciated because being nice is a choice,
Right.
right? Competencies we can learn. Being nice is something which I believe is we can be very, very extremely rewarding.
Fantastic, Anil. On that note, thank you so much for spending time recording this podcast with us. I really appreciate it.
Pleasure is all mine, and thank you so very much for having me here today. I've enjoyed my interaction with you. I hope I didn't bore you with
Not
with
at
my long
all.
sermons, but yeah, here we are. Thank you so very much. Appreciate, and all the
Absolutely.
very best to you and your campus. Looking forward to further engagement.
Thank you so much, Anil, and really, really excited to get your mentorship feedback on what we're doing at Masters Union and see how we can do it better so that we become the first Indian business school to reach the global top 10 out of the country and create a place where the talent of the country feels very proud and excited to study. So
We
thank
will
you
be
for being
proud
another.
too. All the very best to you, the management and the student. And you guys are doing incredible job. So keep the good work going.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anil. Thank you.
Thank you.